Hello and welcome to Team PokeMart, your one-stop shop for the things that you need to stop and shop for. And today's special is an overly friendly Oddish who reveals far too much information about its personal life to strangers, and you, dear viewer, are currently a stranger. And this Oddish could be yours for the incredibly affordable price of subscribing to Team PokeMart, which also has the benefit of uploading regular Pokemon content and superb bargains straight into your YouTube feed. But we're here today to talk specifically about the wonder of Bulbasaur, as well as its evolution chain, because we've recently received a rather unintentionally large shipment of Bulbasaur here at Team PokeMart, and quite frankly, we need to offload them. So sit back and allow me to subliminally manipulate you into purchasing one of our fine Bulbasaurs. Although before we hop into that, yes, I am aware that it is unusual for a PokeMart to be selling Pokemon, but Team PokeMart has fallen on some unfortunately hard times, so we've decided to expand our product range into these delightful monsters themselves. Don't ask me how we acquired them, because I do not wish to incriminate myself, but here we go. Bulbasaur is a dual-type Pokemon sporting grass and poison affinities, introduced in the very first generation, whose design was rather surprisingly initially based on a frog. However, it also very much incorporates aspects of other animals such as cats and various reptiles, as can be seen in its ears and claws respectively. So basically, it's an amphibian, mammal, and a reptile, all rolled into one with a big old flower thing plonked on top of it. It really is like an interior designer was sent back in time to the age of dinosaurs and thought that this particular creature could do with some sprucing up. And you know what? A plant does always get the job done. It just makes space feel so much more alive. And just on the titular bulb in question, this is very notable because it provides Bulbasaur and its subsequent evolutions with a mechanism to gain energy and nourishment via the process of photosynthesis. And as such, copious amounts of time in the sun are very much the key to a healthy Bulbasaur, and will generally be required to activate its evolutions. Fun thing about Bulbasaur though, it is a starter Pokemon of the Kanto region in the first generation of games as well as their remakes, but not only that, Bulbasaur is categorized as a starter Pokemon in the anime canon as well, which means that they are bred specifically to be given to rookie trainers. As a result of this, Bulbasaur are heavily domesticated from birth, thus making them perfect companions for various humans, and this also makes them exceedingly rare to find in the wild, or at least in the wild and not under someone else's ownership. Not at all impossible, but definitely difficult. But Bulbasaur are also bred as starter Pokemon because they possess a wide range of potential in the world of evolution, the first milestone of which will occur at level 16, after which point it will evolve into a delightful Ivysaur. Now, Ivysaur doesn't look too different from its base incarnation, although they are noticeably more, let's say, aesthetically grumpy in general, which makes a lot of sense because this is the awkward teenage phase of this evolution line. We all go through it, no judgment here. But the most notable trait about an Ivysaur is that its bulb has now become a plant. However, it has not quite bloomed, not as of yet. A very heavy plant, mind you, which is relevant because this evolution line generally aren't known as the fastest of Pokemon, and that is primarily due to the weight that they carry on their backs. In compensation for this, the weight of the plant acts as a portable gym for the Bulbasaur clan, and their legs end up being pretty absurdly strong and capable of some very serious power. With that said, by the time we reach the Ivysaur stage, this Pokemon loses the ability to stand on its hind legs, once again thanks to the gigantic plant, so they become very bound to the ground, which I didn't intend to rhyme that, but it happened. But maybe this factor is why Ivysaur has such a dissatisfied look on its face. It's the same kind of look that I get from upper management when I fail to meet my monthly quotas. In fact, it's the exact look I'm going to get from upper management if we fail to sell all of these Bulbasaur, because we have a lot. But we certainly do not stop there, because eventually, after spending time in the sun, Ivysaur too will evolve, which can be detected by a rather sweet smelling aroma, indicating that its flower is ready to bloom at last. And so in preparation for this, Ivysaur will also need to spend more and more time basking in the glorious sun until eventually it turns into a fully fledged Venusaur. And thus we arrive at the big boy, or big girl I suppose. I mean, our stocked Bulbasaur come with a wide selection of biological beginnings. By wide selection I mean 2, male or female, but it is your choice. And here we see the flower planted by the seed of Bulbasaur in full bloom. And actually it's so big that it's almost more of a tree than it is a flower, due to the fact that it requires its own trunk just to support it, which of course puts an awful lot more weight onto our amphibian mammal reptile companion thing. But luckily in Venusaur form, its body has greatly adapted into this chunky unit, more than capable of bearing the burden of its small forest. But the handy thing about the giant plant is that you can very easily tell how healthy your Venusaur is, because it directly correlates to the vibrance of its flower. Healthy Venusaur, not healthy Venusaur. Very healthy Venusaur, practically dead Venusaur. So if it's looking a little on the pastel side, then your Venusaur might need a lot more time outside of its Pokeball and enjoying the sun. Although if you've managed to get your Bulbasaur to this point in its evolution line, line, then you're probably well aware of that anyway. And if not, then well, you're probably a terrible trainer who should give up on all of their hopes and dreams and just accept the fact that they need to take up a stable job at Team PokeMart. Very interestingly, Venusaur in the anime has also demonstrated an ability to manipulate nature to some degree, which is pretty insane. That's like full-on magic stuff happening there. But it gets even better because Venusaur have also been known to take on the mantle of village elders and lead full-on evolution ceremonies for other Bulbasaur and Ivysaur to participate in. However, from here, Venusaur can also go on to be augmented with some temporary evolutions. The first of which being Mega Venusaur, which aesthetically isn't all that different from its prior form. The flower itself gets a bit bigger and sprouts two smaller flowers, one smack bang on Mega Venusaur's forehead and the other on its rear, along with some new markings that tend to appear on its face. In a much more noticeable shift though, we have Gigantimax Venusaur, in which the flower finally becomes so big that it threatens to encompass all that is now Venusaur. But that is certainly not all, because like all Gigantamax Pokemon, it now has access to truly devastating, scary power, standing at an average height of roughly 2,400 centimeters or 24 meters, or for our American chums, that would be 78 feet. And as such, when it releases its vines, they now have the capacity to level entire cities, which is awkward, very awkward, because Team PokeMart would obviously form part of said city, and I need this highly underpaid job to distract me from my failed dreams. In addition to this though, Gigantamax Venusaur can also spew so much pollen that this act resembles something of a volcanic eruption. Although instead of being highly destructive, this pollen will stimulate plant growth, but it will have a negative effect on breathing beings, causing uncontrollable sneezing and even fainting. And just as a general disclaimer, Team PokeMart are not responsible for mass fainting caused by those deciding to Gigantamax their Pokemon purchased from our stores. But as a starter Pokemon from the OG generation, Bulbasaur and its evolutionary relatives have been focused on quite heavily in the anime events, with the most obvious example here being Ash's Bulbasaur, which is one of his more enduring teammates throughout the series. Although things didn't get off to a great start, having encountered each other around the Hidden Village, a place for abandoned and injured Pokemon to come and rest. Which isn't to say that Bulbasaur himself had been abandoned. In fact, he'd actually been raised by the caretaker of the village, Melanie. But due to having come across so many Pokemon in a state of loneliness or just sheer despair, Bulbasaur became very defensive regarding the village residents and actually took on the mantle of bodyguard, showing a keen sense of responsibility that would continue to be a crowning feature of Ash's Bulbasaur going forward. But as a result of this, Bulbasaur initially was also quite highly aggressive towards unknown trainers like Ash, for example. But eventually, Ash does prove himself somehow. From then on, Bulbasaur began to mellow out quite a bit and form a very strong bond with the rest of Ash's team, although Bulbasaur often had to act as a mediator to various bouts of ensuing chaos. But fascinatingly enough, Bulbasaur became great friends in particular with Squirtle, who was the polar opposite of him in terms of maturity, which very much places Bulbasaur in an older brother style scenario with Squirtle. Now, in addition to being one of Ash's longest running companions, Bulbasaur, like Pikachu, has made an active effort not to evolve over the course of the series. This may be due to a couple of factors, the first of which being that Bulbasaur may have observed what occurred with the problem child Charmander, who evolved into a fairly blatantly disrespectful Charmeleon, and then a similarly disrespectful Charizard. And you know, Bulbasaur may not wanted to have risked the same thing happening to him. To add on to things though, Bulbasaur has also demonstrated a fear of various Venusaur in particular, and he also may not wish to become that which he fears most. But Bulbasaur would stay with Ash for the bulk of the series until after the Ruby and Sapphire era, at which point he was returned to Professor Oak's lab, where he remains to this day. There is another highly prominent Bulbasaur in the series though, which belonged to May, who presented a highly different personality to that of Ash's Bulbasaur. May's Bulbasaur could be described as much more timid and or gentle, and certainly not as grumpy as Ash's. And May's is also very visually distinguishable because she has a pair of heart-shaped marks on her forehead. But I suppose the most obvious distinction would be that May's Bulbasaur would eventually go on to become May's Venusaur, embracing evolution, although both iterations of said evolution would occur off-screen. And then of course in the Sun and Moon era, the character of Shauna would also come equipped with a Bulbasaur, and it would even go on to evolve into a beautiful Ivysaur. Some more fun facts about the Bulbasaur line. According to both Ken Sugimori and Atsuko Nishida, Bulbasaur was actually the last design to be finalized within its own evolution line. This is because they originally began with the concept of Venusaur and worked their way back from there, kind of reverse engineering the line, which is always cool. I mean, it's generally nice to know your destination when planning your route. Back in the old days of Pokemon, by which I mean red, green, blue, you know, the primary colors, Professor Oak actually labels Bulbasaur as a plant Pokemon whilst referring to its type, although the English versions of the remakes, Fire Red and Leaf Green, correct this and have Oak call it a grass Pokemon. Although funnily enough, in the Japanese incarnation of Fire Red and Leaf Green, Oak still calls it a plant type. Professors, hey, they think they know better than the rest of us. I mean, just because I don't have a tertiary qualification. I can still tell it's a grass, not a plant. There's a plant on it, but it's a grass type. Where's my doctorate? As we've already explored, Bulbasaur was one of Ash's primary companions, but when we add in May and Shawn as Bulbasaur, as well as other numerous appearances, this Pokemon is actually the third most commonly seen in the anime, behind Meowth at number 2, which makes sense given Team Rocket and all, as well as of course Pikachu, who is quite safely in the number 1 spot there. Bulbasaur has also intriguingly become the subject of a public safety message from the Ireland Automobile Association, who very much wish to discourage the worrying trend of those playing Pokemon Go whilst driving. As such, it warned that, quote, catching a Bulbasaur is worth a potential court appearance and a fine of up to 1,000 euros. In Japanese, the entire Bulbasaur line is named incorporating the word Fushigi, which on its own means mysterious. And so Bulbasaur, Ivysaur, and Venusaur are called Fushigidane, Fushigiso, and Fushigibane, which literally translated means strange seed, strange grass, and strange flower respectively. And finally, a truly useless fact. In 2016, a restaurant in my home nation of Australia called Down and Out, for whatever reason, crafted a range of Pokemon themed burgers, one of which was of course based on Bulbasaur, which resulted in the most adorable burger I have ever wished to consume. And there you have it, an extensive overview of our brand new product. Please be sure to stop by Team PokeMart to pick up your very own Bulbasaur today, or even just to say hi and spend some money as well, because like we're not a charity. But if you would like to say hi, you can do so in the comments below, or even by joining our Discord server. Furthermore, please do feel free to check out some of our other merchandise on the site here, or even subscribe to the channel for regular bargain content uploaded straight into your YouTube feed. But for now, this has been Team PokeMart, and we'll see you next time.